Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, this is the Game Development Crisis Conference. Our next panel coming up is Expats in Isolation, so I'm going to turn it over to the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone. This is Eve Crevoshay, and I'm going to moderate this panel today. I'm the Executive Director of Take This, one of the co-organizers of today's conference. And I will start in order of who I see on my screen. Milena, go ahead.
Thanks, Eve. So my name is Milena. Well, I'm currently self-employed. I specialize in business development, marketing, and video games. Well, we're talking about expats, so if you're asking me about my country of origin, that will be a really tough one for me because I have this rehearsed line which says my parents, they come from a country which doesn't exist anymore. It's Yugoslavia. Well, they often referred to being Serbians. My passport is Serbian, but I was born in Czech Republic, Prague, and currently right now I'm in Leeds, United Kingdom. So that will be my short answer.
Thank you. And next, Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara J Brannigan. I'm the Director of Community, Player Support, and Influencer Management over at Behaviour Interactive. As you may have guessed, I'm originally from America. I've spent the last 7 years living in New Zealand, Germany, the Netherlands, and now most recently Montreal, Canada.
Thank you. And Diana?
Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Laura. I'm currently the account manager for Uplay at Massive Entertainment in Malmö, Sweden. I am originally from the Dominican Republic, but I grew up in the United States, specifically New York City. And like I said, I'm currently living in Malmö, Sweden.
Great, thanks. And Nikita?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Nikita. So I work at Unity Technologies, run global business development at UDB department. My country's origin is Russia, and to be precise, Siberia. So I'm born and raised in Novosibirsk, which is like in the middle of Russia. And then I moved to St. Petersburg, and afterwards I joined Unity and moved to Finland and Helsinki. Yeah, that's it.
Welcome, everyone. It's a real pleasure to have you all here. And for some of you, it is very late in the evening, and I really appreciate you showing up.
Fairly awake.
Fairly awake. Well, hopefully I can keep your attention going for a full hour. I want to start just with some basics to get everybody oriented to this conversation. Ask basically, how did you become an expat and how does one go about that? Or was it an intentional process for you? And do you see it being a long-term plan for yourself? So I'll invite Diana to jump in to start.
I find recently, just actually since I've actually moved outside of the U.S. Officially, again, I'm in an interesting position because my family are already immigrants to the United States, and we lived in the U.S., but we're from another country, and now here I am living in another country as well. So I don't consider myself an expat. I consider myself an immigrant, if that makes any sense. I came to, I think the connotation of an expat for me is like a woman in a sundress taking Instagram photos on the beach. That's what I consider an expat, because that's kind of like the hashtag that you see on Instagram or any sort of like social media post. So I really more consider myself an immigrant. I came here to Sweden to live a better life because the US is a hot mess right now, and it was a hot mess 2.5 years ago. And so I wanted a better life, and pursue a new career for myself and my partner and my cat and now my dog. So that's kind of how I became an expat. I'm an expat immigrant. I moved for a job for a better life.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nikita, do you want to go next?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, yeah, I was looking to try to live abroad. Basically, I'm comparatively young, so for me, I don't have a cat or dog or anything like that. So for me, it was barely, I would say, an easy choice, more or less. And yeah, Finland, Helsinki is based just 4 hours on fast train from St. Petersburg. So it's not that far, to be honest. So a lot of expats from Russia, they go back to Russia during weekends and stuff like that. So it's fairly, how to say it, acceptable, right? So it's quite fine.
Acceptable and
But,
accessible.
Yeah, true. However, the life in Finland is 100% different comparing to what you've been used to. So it was a huge change in a way, even though it was just a few hundred kilometers. That's interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. And Tara?
So kind of similar to Diana, my family is immigrants as well, at least on my mom's side, and we're not really good about staying in one place. Like even within the US, we moved around a lot. So for me, it's just always been a potential thing that might happen someday. And I met my husband in New Zealand, not in New Zealand, in Seattle, and he's a New Zealander, and we'd been in Seattle for a very long time. I had an opportunity to move to Dublin with PopCap. We got pretty much ready to go. We were all prepped, started selling stuff. And that's right about the time PopCap Dublin went under. So we were in this weird state of like, oh, ready to go somewhere, didn't have anywhere to go. And I ended up just coming across an opportunity in New Zealand. So it ended up being this weird conversation of like, hey, do you want to move back to your home country for a while? So it was really exciting. I actually went to New Zealand as a little kid on a student ambassador program, and I came back to the Midwest and I told my mom, like, I'm going to move there someday. And she always encouraged me. And then sure enough, we did it later. We clearly didn't stay there, but we had the opportunities to move around the world, and I've always been really grateful for that. It's been a really fun adventure.
Cool. Milena?
Well, first of all, I really like what Diana said. It was really interesting about the kind of what is the difference between actually being an immigrant and expat, right? It got me thinking if there is there a choice involved in that? Kind of because myself, I kind of became let's say an expat. Or I am an immigrant, but I became an expat since the day I was born. I didn't have a chance to choose where to live, right? So my parents came to Prague in pursuit of a better life. During that time, I actually was born a couple of days after the Yugoslavia fell apart. And there I was, like in Czech Republic, and in my house, everybody spoke Serbian, but I was exposed to different language, so all the confusion started. And then when I was around 6, 7, my parents decided, oh, let's confuse her even more. Let's send her to a Russian school, let her learn Russian. So at that point, I was like, Serbian, but Czech, but also kind of Russian, and then just so I think the God or whatever there is wanted to even spice it up a bit. He's like, oh, I'm going to send you a man who is a British. So it's but I think that, I don't know if I consider myself an immigrant at this point now when I've left Prague, Czech Republic, in pursuit of actually better opportunities in career, and also because of love. I kind of found myself that this is actually being an expertise. So I had a preconditioned goal, what to do, what I want to achieve by leaving the country, leaving Prague at that point. But also I think there is a lot of being an expat comes from state of mind, when you separate yourself from something which is very familiar and embedded in your brain, and all those cultural differences, languages and everything, and even cultural identities that you come across. So for me, it's like a very ongoing process. And lately I have even come to the conclusion that perhaps in order to kind of figure out if you're an expat or an immigrant, or where do you belong, where's your home, you need to first leave your home in order to find your home. So I don't know, I've been thinking about it a lot lately in isolation. So that would be kind of my answer. But yeah.
Thank you. This is a very this is a time when we think deeply about things because of the situation we're in.
Exactly.
Now, I'm going to preface this next question with acknowledgement that the situation in the various countries we're in has been wildly different across of quarantine and isolation, and when that started and when it ended. And maybe you can speak a little bit to that. I'm still under a stay-at-home order here in the Seattle area, and will be for quite some time, it looks like. My daughter's out of school through the end of the school year, probably won't have summer camp, all of those things. How has the experience of quarantine and the additional restrictions on travel changed your perspective, if at all, about what it means to be away from your place of origin and far away from potentially family as well? And just jump in if you want to answer.
I have kind of an interesting experience in that I landed in Montreal just before this. So we arrived late January. I just started to get to know my teams in person, and then we pulled everything together and all went home, actually before the stay-at-home order. Big kudos to the company for that, by the way. That was a lot of planning and effort on their part. But for me, I think the single biggest difference is, I get a lot of people asking, oh, how are you finding Montreal? I was like, I literally have no idea. I've been inside my apartment for almost the entire time I've been here. So, people ask cultural differences here. I don't know, outside of those that I run into my team. They definitely exist. In terms of relationship with family and that sort of thing, I think that actually is the single most frustrating thing, is that part of the reason I was as excited about this role and where it was is that I'm originally from Michigan, and my grandparents are still in Michigan, and they're getting older, they're having health issues. I was really looking forward to being able to visit not just them, but also my mom down in Georgia. And I am the closest I have been in 7+ years, and I am not
Yeah.
allowed to see them. But at least scheduling Skype calls is much easier than, okay, let's arrange schedules to figure out that, make the time work.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I would agree really with Tara on the family emphasis, let's say. So I think this whole quarantine and all this sort of pandemic, right? It kind of, for me personally, it reinforced the values of what actually matters to me the most, and also kind of resurfaced the issues of the whole life and work balance and in our lives, especially in the dynamic industry as is video games, so which can be quite stressful without the pandemic. So, and kind of reinforce this, what's important, what's your kind of hierarchy of values, let's say. Is it family, is it health, is it friends, are those hobbies? And if I would tie it into being also an expat and being in a foreign country, a lot of time, again, from my perspective, during this time, I've been more present with my family, my friends, with people who really matter the most, and with myself. What are my needs? And usually, sometimes we get caught up, especially in those moves when we move to different countries where we change and do this big life major changes. We forget like what makes us happy. We either need to do the logistics about the move. We need to sort different stuff, I don't know, taxes, whatever, bank accounts, or if it's moving for the company, so we need to focus on delivering in a different company, and then we just forget, oh my god, I love to do horse riding, or I love to do this, and we completely forgot those important stuff, and that takes us further away from who we are and what makes us happy and what's actually important in our lives. So I think it may be sounding a bit like, I don't know, corny or whatever, but when anyone can find something good in something bad, and I've decided to find something good for myself in this worldwide isolation, and it's that to actually maybe we should look in within ourselves. And also I've come to realize that stability as the word and what it means nowadays is overrated. We should be maybe more stable in ourselves. We say stability is better job, stability is moving to this country, stability is this, having more money, having this, having more toilet paper, doesn't matter. But and then look, one virus and everything's gone. So maybe we panic, we go crazy. So maybe we should find this inner peace and stability within ourselves, and then we can actually be able to cope with any pandemic whatsoever, economic crisis and everything. I don't know. I think I just became too smart lately. So, too much reading as well lately. So.
I think like for me it's like I'm to use the word again, I'm the immigrant, and I don't know the language. I literally don't know the language. So I am dealing I'm in a situation of a pandemic where I have to, I'm forced to sort of get the documentation or search for documentation and try to understand the documentation. I'm, having to talk to different types of people who are embedded in the culture and know the language, and who also can translate things very clearly to me. So for me, the situation of being in a different country with a language that I know very little about, I'm learning, but I don't know much, has been difficult, and it's also a cultural shift. So like for my, I was raised very, sort of, we were all very independent, and it was like, respect other cultures, respect other people. And that's kind of just like ingrained in me. And so I respect other cultures, I respect other people. And that's just a part of who I am. And so, but it's also kind of like a little shocking how Sweden was kind of handling the pandemic. And, while I hear that, like, I'm from New York, which is one of the, at the time, or still is, I guess, one of the hardest hit places, New York City. I'm literally from New York City, and the things coming out of there, and I, like the majority of my friends, they're all locked. They've been locked down. They're not allowed to go outside, or different things. And so it's just like, it's just a juxtaposition of like, oh, in the United States, it's all shut down. Denmark shut down, Norway shut down, Finland shut down, Germany shut down. My fiance is working down in Germany. He started work in Germany, and he came up to visit me for my birthday in February, which is when everything started shutting down. So he hasn't been back to Germany. Like, he's been here in Sweden working remotely, and waiting for things to relax and chill. But things have been crazy there too. So it's like having to sort of, I'm away from my family. We're already super close, and we literally talk every single day. It's already before the pandemic, and now it's just like I don't have an excuse. So when my mom calls, she'll say like, "Oh, why didn't you answer the phone? I know you're not busy." I'm like, "Damn." Damn, she knows. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. So it's just like, what we talk every day. My family and I talk every day, but for me, like the being in a different country in a language that I don't know, it's been difficult because I walk around and again, this is how Sweden has dealt with it. It's been in the news. We all know how Sweden has dealt with a pandemic, and and I'm seeing people at the mall and having parties, and I'm like, what is happening? But personal responsibility and all that, and it's just weird. It's been weird to have to sort of learn that was so far has been the only culture shock, if that's hard to believe.
That somebody trusts so much the country, like the people, like do what you want. We're not going to tell you what you should do. Isn't that amazing? It's like,
and then also like just trying to understand the literature and the documentation that's being that's out there it was difficult. But we dealt with it. We're dealing. We adapt.
Yeah.
We survive.
Choice.
Nikita, I'm curious about
Yeah. To be honest, I agree with the language because Finland or Sweden, everyone speaks English basically. But if you want to, read what you're going to buy in the store, then English doesn't help much. So I agree with the language, but I would say that thing which made the biggest difference for me during this time was that I really realized that first of all, I could have met my parents and relatives much more often, and that was like the very big understanding which came out to me. Like basically I could meet them more regularly, and like right now they're like 4,000 kilometers from. Actually, basically 4,000 and a half from Helsinki. That was like 4 and 5 hours of flying, but right now this distance is pretty much infinite because you can't simply don't have that opportunity, and not having an opportunity is shit. I prefer having options. And without them, it's nothing. It's just simply.
It really does change your perspective. It just changes your perspective of things, and it's like I've had people who, I only say this is just I've had people who passed from Corona, and it just really changes the perspective of like you are far away from home, you can't be there, you have to sort of adapt, and you kind of separate things. Like if that makes any sense, you kind of say, okay, this is what's happening right now in the world, but we have to move on and we have to live. But we're also far away, so let's chat all the time, and let's call each other, and let's be together, and let's adjust our perspective and what we can and can't do.
Let's do that Christmases together. As we tried to avoid so many times, at least from my perspective, always, oh my God, Dad, really? No. Now it's like, please, I just want that Christmas with you. Yeah.
It's true.
It's interesting hearing you all talk about family. My dad lives across the country from me, so I have to fly to get there, or drive for 4 or 5 days, right? And he's immunocompromised, so I can't go see him right now, right? Which feels similar, but there's no law, there's no border I have to deal with to get there. And I think what you're talking about, this sense of that there's like, it feels like a border is a really hard it's a hard stop in a profoundly different way than the experience that I have.
Yeah, it is. And even getting like information, like just today, actually, I was calling Czech embassy just to figure out, I wanted to keep a hold of things. Like here, for example, in UK, they're a little bit behind, of course, than Central Europe. Let's say they're not opening up malls and stuff. And of course, the situation here, like how many people have been infected and died from, it's completely different numbers than in Central Europe, especially Czech Republic. And I couldn't have gotten through, to the embassy, and the frustration, right? And then I sent an email because I just want to just want to figure out, okay, so I know the borders are going to be opening, right? But are there going to be some specific rules? Should I, kind of sign up for a test? Should I be, is this going to be the thing that's going to help me cross the border if I show that I'm negative? What's going to be happening? How long are we talking about? I do have the permanent residence. I can go back. That's like homeland. But still, even this lack of information, that the embassy doesn't answer, that then I send an email and they're like, oh, you're not urgent. Just wait a week. And I'm like, yeah, this additional frustration, this border, this bureaucracy that you have to go through, like Diana said.
But but on the other end of that, and this is something that I have to, sort of remind, I have to remind my family as well, and my friends who like get really like incensed when over things of other, like they see somebody not walking around with a mask, or they're like pissed off about like the amount of people on the street, and I'm just like, listen, and this is what it's taught me. It's just like, and again, this is about like the acceptance of like, I'm in a different country. This is how things are. This is, I have to sort of accept it. And the only thing we can control is ourselves, and those are, and we can only like talk to our family and our friends, and that's the things that it's about perspective as well. Like, I can't get mad. I can't continuously get mad over things that I have no control over.
Exactly. Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't get mad at that.
You can only control your feelings, how you choose to react.
And the same about like bureaucracy as well. Like, like Sweden is full of bureaucracy, and it's just like,
try Germany. Oh my God.
Procedures.
I took it back because I remember the things that my fiance had to go through, and I was just like, "Holy, that's excessive. You need insurance for your insurance. That's why." But it's like these are the, like, we can't get mad over these sort of things, and we have to learn about, first of all, the culture, the being that I'm going to keep saying immigrant, be that immigrant in a new country, and learning that about how things work, and you like, it is what it is. They've done it for a while, and that's how it is, and we have to sort of accept it.
No, they were just waiting for us to come and tell them how to do it.
They were being mean.
Yeah, that's why the borders are so closed.
Of course. But you kind of learn that, like, you totally learn that as
patience.
Patience at being like an expat, if you want to say that. It's like, you learn the importance of being patient, and that you can't control how things are. Like, like it just is.
I agree.
Just appreciate your family and go on and on.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you've all kind of touched on this, but the sense of a little bit of isolation and missing friends and family, right? Do you think that's exacerbated by the pandemic? I mean, I think, like, Diana, you're talking about how it's much less shut down in Sweden, so you're having a different. But do you feel like, because there's interesting statistics around how much, like 80% of expats have felt isolated during their time abroad, right?
Right.
And you're talking about the language barrier, et cetera. How has that gotten worse? Or have you been able to, like, Nikita, you were talking about how you're realizing you could totally talk to your family a lot more, and you should, right? There's no excuse.
You should.
Have you changed the way your relationship to how you deal with isolation at all?
Well, first of all, I would say that for sure. Like, I traveled back to my hometown like once a year, and I realized that I pretty much can do it much more often. And in a way, I would say that right now everyone feel isolated, regardless of the expats or not.
Yeah.
And still, well, I think that's then probably the biggest outcome I can hope that can come out of it, is that people start to really treat everything that we actually have at the moment, like, treat better, and like count on it.
Yeah.
That probably might do it, because, for example, I realized that my previous year was like crazy. It was awesome comparing to how little it is right now. Let's put it this way. Like, you stay in your home, everything is like Groundhog Day movie.
Great description.
This is Monday. You have like that number of calls, and okay, this is Friday, and you're still in the 40 square meters.
Yeah.
So
I think I kind of get that. It's like, I think before the pandemic, I think what I pretty much had was just like really bad FOMO. Like, I really wanted, like, fear of missing out. Like, I'd see my friends in New York and they're all just like, I was just saying that, like, I really wanted to go to I miss New York in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
The smell, and just like having like a margarita in the Lower East Side, like, that's what I want. I want that. Oh God, I want that so bad. And then seeing my friends do that like every weekend, or like going out to dinner, and I'd be like, man, like, I really want to like do that. And I miss
to the favorite place, right?
Yeah, I miss New York. I miss New York. And so that's the basis of like the missing part, like that, and then where I missed, obviously I missed family, but I was really like wanting to just like have a hot dog from New York. So that was like what I missed. But now it's different. It's like, now it's just like, I miss work interaction. It's different,
Our baseline's changed.
Yeah. But mine is a little odd in that certain things balanced out. Is that, like, being back here, I can talk to my family more easily. So my mom text messages me like every day, and that just wasn't possible when I lived in Europe. And that feels more like a family connection, even though it's a softer, passive one. I do miss the in-person side of things. I will say our team's done a really good job in that we even have daily work sessions where we just all get on video chat and chat while we're working, to try and pull together some of that, like, in the office feel, the virtual water cooler, share the stupid jokes and memes of the day. So it's kind of a strange mix for me, because I'm super, super introverted and pretty bad about letting myself get self-isolated, but I have never felt more connected in certain ways, even though I can't get the physical, like, in-person interaction, which I am actually starting to miss, which is a sign of just how long this has been going on.
Yeah.
I miss going to conferences a lot. Like, I always complain when I'm there, but like, I get to see everybody, and just the thought of not being able to have those touch points with people around the world outside of the virtual space, like, that's starting to feel a little heavier as time goes on.
Yeah, this has been a pretty profound shift in perspective, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, for everyone.
Just in the concept of being able to work from home as well is just like, it's just wild, and how that's going to change the space as well for everybody.
Oh my goodness.
Just like before it was like, no, man, we can't let you work from home. And now it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
now you can't. And like, you lied. We can't.
Yeah.
When there's a forcing function.
I agree.
I'm curious, actually. Do you think that you will use that, or that will be useful as a tool in helping you stay connected to family, like the ability to work from home or work from anywhere?
Well, yeah, but you've also that also raises maybe other questions, right? When you think about it, like, if we also work from home, don't maybe potentially our life and balance line before kind of gets a bit stirred, how to say. I tend to, when I'm working from home, and then and on the business trips, I tend to work way more. I really like, kind of, you just didn't, the computer's here in front of me. Let's just check this email. Oh, let's answer this. Oh, babe, wait, I'm just finishing this up, and it's already 8 p.m. So, it can be also misused, perhaps. Depends like on the because I don't know. So it's interesting thing. How is it going to be implemented in the industry? So like working from home, yeah, we can. But also, I've noticed people are now having conferences on Saturday and Sunday. What the hell, you know? People are
That's really
online at
disappointing.
9 p.m. It's true. What about that family again? You know, actually, that can maybe take us away more from family. I don't know. Just
Yeah, well, and that's where
we-
leadership really needs to step in
exactly.
because they set the
Yeah.
baseline. And if people see you answering emails at 10 p.m.,
You're
they're going to
right.
think that
Mhm.
like the same
Exactly.
thing is true of them. So I've had to police myself on this too of like, it's 6 p.m. Stop it. Like, you're not going
Yeah.
to chat with people on Teams. You're not going to answer emails. You're going to
Yeah.
go play Animal Crossing or you're
Yeah.
going to do something else.
Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, I've talked about this a couple of times on panels and stuff. Is I've created some rituals for myself that help me shut off. So I described I have this this really nice 3-screen desk set up. It's all attached to a power strip. I turn the power strip off at a certain time. It doesn't mean that I can't, it doesn't prevent me from doing work, but it's a signal to myself that that part of my
Yeah.
day is over and I
Yeah.
need to go into another part of the house
Yeah.
and do all the other things required of me, like make sure my family is fed and the
Mhm.
kitchen is cleaned up and all of that. And, that doesn't mean that I'm unable to check, and I still need to, police my phone use and stuff like that. But I also, I have tools like Do Not Disturb set up on my phone and stuff like that that make it, so messages don't show up on the weekends. They don't, on my phone, and so that's another cue to me to not use my phone for work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you have to work at it. You have to work
Yeah.
at self-care. You have to work at boundary setting,
Mhm.
but it's worth it, right?
And I think like to also to sort of connect that as well to just like being away from home and being a sort of an expat as well is that I found that like I used to despise using my phone when I was
Mm.
back in the States. Like, like I didn't like if you wanted to contact me, like send me an email or send me a text, like because I was like man, I'm too busy for that. But now like I'm away from home. Obviously, I'm in a
Mhm.
different country, and I'm on my phone like all the time messaging friends, and and then there's like the big time difference, and so like I'm messaging people late at night and or early in the morning, and it's like just catching up on the news. Like I wake up and I'm just like, oh my god, what happened? So it's like so it's like I'm on my phone more now that I'm away from home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm seeing some questions starting to come through in the Twitch chat, and I want to just touch on a couple of them. And I invite more questions. Just make sure you put question in all caps at the beginning so that we can find it. The first question, and this is a little bit off the topic of pandemic stuff, but what kind of preparation did you make before moving to a different country? What's that process like?
Wow.
And that's a big
bold.
question.
Tara.
I can go first because I've done this too many times.
Times.
I like the biggest thing I can tell people is like get rid of as much stuff as possible. Like you will not even remember
Mhm.
what half of it was 6 months later. I mean, even this trip, we travel quite light these days. And when we were unpacking the boxes from the Netherlands, which I think was only like 4 square meters of stuff, including my bike, I was still like, oh yeah, I forgot about this thing. I didn't know this was a thing. You think that you have all of these emotional attachments to things, but like after moving so many times, I've actually gotten pretty like stuff averse. So when I go to conferences and someone tries to give me some little, doll or figure, unless I know someone I'm going to give it to, I usually say no because for me, it's now just some liability that I'm going to have to deal with in a couple years. Um,
Yard
do your
sale.
do your research on paperwork, like especially if you're say moving to New Zealand and you want to take your pet. That's at least a 6 month process.
Yes.
I highly recommend using a professional pet moving service if you can, just because there are so many rules and restrictions. And if you don't get every step of it right, your pet is in isolation for at least 6 months, or they
Mhm.
can be bumped entirely. Um,
I gave
And
up. I
this,
gave up a job opportunity because I didn't want to leave my
yeah,
pet in isolation for the 3-4 months. I was like, I can't.
yeah, it's
That's
you
terrible.
can get the quarantine down really short, but you have to do it with a pet moving service. There's just not going to happen. Um, get every piece of paperwork you could ever possibly need done before you leave your country of origin. It will never be easier to do. Like, I'm so glad I have multiple signed copies of my birth certificate and marriage license and XYZ, because every country is different, and you may think that you're going to go, like, you're going to move to New Zealand, you're going to stay there forever, and then, oh my god, there's this shiny pretty opportunity in Germany, and doesn't that sound exciting? um,
Yeah.
and you may
Yeah.
lose that opportunity if you don't have that paperwork, because in some of these cases it takes 3 to 6 months to get everything processed, and if you're waiting an additional 3 months on top of that, maybe they don't want to wait for you. In the case of Germany, I like, you can't see it, but just off to the side, I have a big orange folder where I have every document critical to my life that I just carried around for the first 3 months everywhere I went, because you never know what each department needs, and they're not always going to tell you, and you may not understand the language, so you probably read the website wrong with Google Translate. So it's just like, be over prepared. Like, don't drive yourself up a wall with it. Don't, give yourself extra anxiety, but as much as you can, like, prep in advance. You're gonna feel a lot better, and just get rid of as much as you can. You don't want it.
Yeah.
Except the paperwork. You want all
Except the paperwork. You want every last piece
Yeah.
of that.
I would add that what for me was a shock, perhaps I would suggest as well, like, look into the health insurance structure of the country a lot, because like in Czech Republic, let's say, just the flow of making appointments, and especially if you have, let's say, a mental health issue, or even just dentist or dermatologist or something. So for me it was like easy peasy, I'm gonna go do this or that in Czech Republic, and then I come in UK, oh, you're on a special waiting list. What? Waiting list 6-7 months, what the hell? And special registrations, you can't go just to a psychiatrist or psychologist. You need to have a GP referral and thousands of different referrals, which is not used in Eastern Europe, for example. So this kind of, I would really also suggest just to focus. I always thought, I don't need that, right? Like, young and everything's like great, and then something happens, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, how do I call a GP? And I'm a completely stranded puppy and I don't know what to do. So I really suggest like checking like health stuff, like health processes, even in advance, just phoning if it's private, or if it's not private, if you can already preset a meeting to do the assessment of whatever is needed just in advance, like really it's gonna save a lot of waiting hours and a life. It's health.
So and to add to that, the last thing I think you have your stuff, you have your health, and then money wise is to start researching like before you move. Like really like things like TransferWise that has been like a savior for me. TransferWise has been like a savior for me when it comes to like transferring money back and forth. I kept a bank account in the United States so that I could transfer money there, because I felt like there are some websites that don't accept the TransferWise card for whatever reason. So it's like there's a lot of different things that you need to just like have backup money and be aware of.
Yeah, even opening a bank account, it's not as easy as you think. It took me like months to open a bank account, and even there it was a cultural difference for me. I kind of, in Eastern Europe, you still have like your banker, the guy who actually checks your money and gives you a suggestion, kind of cares. And in West, it's a bit more robotized in a way, like, just you need a loan? Yeah, click here. But no, I would like to ask for a suggestion. Are you sure that maybe I should get a loan? I don't care, just go on the guidelines, I'm like, oh, thanks for the help, So it's a bit different attitude. Everything is online. Everything you need is online. There is a less of this human, perhaps in some Swiss banks, I don't know, but that's different money we're talking about, right? But it's just different. It was a shock for me. I was using my previous card for months, like for payments, and then those transaction fees and everything, right? But they nearly took my blood just so I can get it, I can get a bank account open. I was like, what the hell?
That's why it's just super important. Just like make sure like you have all your ducks in a row with your paperwork, with your money, know where your money's going, how much how much it costs to transfer things, and all of those were super important things that like you just don't think about. You just don't think about even something as little as like just trying to buy something online and realizing that you can't use your ID card or you can't use your debit card because it's like it's wild. There's like the dumbest things. So it works.
So Nikita, did you?
Yeah, I can add on bank accounts basically. then I moved to Finland. Well, I set up a bank account. It was relatively easy, and then after I found an apartment, it was like 8 p.m. on Friday. I decided to order some stuff from IKEA, like the beds, tables, like chairs, everything like that. Suddenly I realized that I can't make online purchases because my card doesn't allow that.
Yeah,
that's basic function of credit card, because otherwise I can use cash, right? If I can't pay online, I can pay cash. And it was so so my life became miserable just in the moment. And again, it was 8 p.m. on Friday, and support works only from 9 till 5. Doesn't work on weekdays, on weekends. So that means that I actually can't solve it until Monday. So the whole weekend is wasted.
Yeah.
So that's Finland.
It happens. Yeah.
I have one more question really quickly that came in. Do you think things would be different during this pandemic if you were in your country of origin? Which I think the answer is yes for everyone. Right?
We wouldn't be having a call.
Have there been quarantine restrictions in Russia?
Well, it's getting worse. Like Russia now is in the second place after US in terms of cases. So my dad actually joked on me saying that that list that you can find on John Hopkins is basically equal to the list of like stupid governments. Well, that's a joke, it. But to be honest, there is a part like which might be considered as truth. So things are getting worse as well. In quarantine became stricter, but the thing was that pretty much people didn't really care much until.
What is Finland like?
In Finland, today, as far as I know, schools are reopened again. So, social distancing is basically it's the thing which Finns get used to. So it's not something which is something very new. So I mean, people started to self-isolate themselves very early, at the beginning of March, probably, just after very early cases. So that's why I guess it became better. So I've heard that probably next week Finland will also reopen border with Estonia. So things are getting better here in North.
Yeah.
Unsure about Sweden, though. Sweden, did it its own way.
Yeah. I think that if I was back in the US, I think I'd be extremely stressed I think that's another reason. It's another reason why Sweden is so lax, is because the social services of the healthcare is good enough, and people are just like, it's like, if you're unemployed, you have unemployment insurance. If I'm very, very blessed to work at a company that was super supportive, and were able to work from home early. I would not have been able to. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do that back in the United States. I would be worried that I would be worried I wouldn't have insurance, because I didn't have really insurance until I moved here. So it's kind of that sort of situation. I'm very thankful that I'm here and I'm not in the United States. That's so terrible to say. And that also makes me feel terrible and really bad. And that's another form of survivor's guilt, I guess, as you want to call it, expat guilt. I don't know what you want to say that, where it's like, like, we have it really well here. And I'm aware of that, and blessed, and know that. I'm aware of my privilege here. Unlike my father, who lost his job, and my mom, who, like, it's like all of the people back home I know are suffering. So
to echo that, if I would be stressed out if I was still back there as well. I have like a bunch of random chronic health issues like asthma and just things that I need maintenance medications for, and that at any point I could have an attack that could send me to the hospital. And when I was living in the States, primarily in Washington, Washington is an at-will employment state, which means you can come in one day and your job is gone, and you have no safety net, you have no support. Your health insurance goes along with that. And one thing I always tell people is, like, I wasn't aware how much anxiety I was carrying about my health every day until that weight wasn't there anymore. I had an emergency room visit in New Zealand because I got a staph infection, and they were apologizing for how expensive it was going to be. And I'm starting to get flustered because I'm like, how much? She's like, it's $90. And this is $90 New Zealand. So I was like, oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that's no problem. But to them, to them, that was still a huge amount of money. Like, it's ghastly to have to pay that. But yeah, once I'd been away for a while, I really started to understand just how much that played into my overall anxiety every single day, because it could be anything. Like, I touched a guinea pig once and my face swelled up. Like, I don't know what's going to cause it sometimes.
I think what you're saying is so true, especially for folks from the United States. That anxiety that always kind of sits right here, and it just sits right here the whole time, and you don't realize that it sits there. And then, like, I moved to Sweden, and it was like 6 months in, and it's like you feel like it's like the threads are slowly coming undone, and you're like, oh my gosh, what? I can actually start thinking about what having a family is like. What is that? I don't know. Like, I never would have thought that was possible. What? I can own my own home? That's not so it's like the differences of being home and being in being here in specifically Sweden are night and day for me.
So I gotta jump in because it is 1 minute after the hour. And I know we've been having so much fun. This has been a fantastic conversation. And it's clear that we should do this again, because it's a rich conversation on so many levels. So thank you all for participating and for taking time out of your day for this. I really appreciate it. And I've had a lot of fun and learned quite a lot from you all. And thank you to our audience for these great questions. We're going to turn this back over to Renee and to the next panel. And thank you all to our viewers for participating. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.